the bottom line is that if I don't deal with that stuff and I cover it up with drinking and drugs, it's just going to make everything worse. And now I've learned that lesson for sure.
This is the True Hustle Podcast with your host, JR.
This is the True Hustle Podcast with your host, JR.
I know you're from Northeast LA.
Yes, born and raised, Highland Park. Mm-hmm.
Huntington Park right here.
No, Highland Park.
I'm from Huntington Park.
Okay,
so
go.
Highland Park and Huntington Park in the house.
Yes, we love
So
the
how was
parks.
it growing up there?
It was pretty rough for me. You know, I got involved in a gang and drugs when I was a really young teenager, and my brothers were in and out of juvenile hall, and I was doing the same things they were. I just wasn't getting caught. You know, I was getting, but I did get arrested a few times, but I was doing graffiti and I dropped out of school, and I had a really rough life at home, like all bad kids do. You know, it's bound to happen. You never see like a bad kid come from a great household, you know. So it was pretty rough growing up.
But what do you mean by bad household? Like, where did you have like issues with your parents? Did they get divorced, or like what was the issue?
Yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 4, and my dad left my mom the house, which was nice, but with her 3 really young kids. Like, I think my youngest brother, I don't even know if he was a year old yet when they divorced. And so my mom was now with the 3 of us and with a mortgage payment. So it was really hard on her, and she was really physically abusive. So obviously that's like mentally abusive too, and emotionally abusive when the hand that feeds you is also the hand that beats you, you know. So it was caused a lot of turbulence, and my dad not being there was really rough. And I feel like my mom and my dad, they worked really hard, you know. They were working full time, and by the time my mom got home, she just didn't have enough energy or patience to deal with 3 little kids on her own. And then she was going through the heartbreak of divorce and a failed marriage, and it was just really rough. Yeah.
So going through a divorce, having to work, having to still pay a mortgage, that's tough.
That's a lot for a woman.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Now that I'm older, I realize, like, damn, she must have been so stressed. Like, I know how it saddens me when I'm heartbroken. You know, I can't imagine doing that with 3 small kids. I'm not with the baby's dad anymore. Like, that sucks. That's a very unfortunate situation.
I think, like, once we get older, like, we start seeing things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because now we go through the same trials and tribulations that they're going through. Mm-hmm. And then you start thinking, like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tripping over this.
Yeah.
And my mom had to go through her stuff with 3 kids, a divorce, and, you know, like having the pressures of providing.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't justify, you know, the abusive part, you know, because I mean, my parents were the same. Of
course.
You know, like, beat the shit out of us. You know? That doesn't justify that shit. You know, but I'm saying, like, just put things in a little different perspective.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking, like, how would I handle that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I definitely think about that a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have kids yet. You know, I'm trying to set myself up to have a household that's not going to be broken, that's not going to be abusive, that's not going to be struggling for money or time to give to the kids, you know. So that's really something that I want to change moving forward with my bloodline. Yeah.
And that's dope. Because you can't repeat the cycle.
I don't want to repeat the cycle. It's been repeated too many times. In my mom's family, it's like all single mothers. Like, all. It's crazy. What's wrong? You're crying. I let you go to the bathroom already. Why are you crying? You're going to mess this up for me. Come here. Come here.
Think she wants to be on the podcast too.
I know. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So, shit, it's just kind of... So do you think a lot of the things that your mom was going through and you would see her struggle and she was a certain way with you guys, do you think that is what made you, like, rebel and, like, say, you know what, fuck this, I'm just going to go run the streets?
I would say that's exactly what it was. You know, my mom being physically abusive and my dad not being there for us. It was just, for my particular family, a recipe for disaster. Also, I have a lot of addiction problems and all kinds of abuse in my family, like for generations and generations. So it's kind of just been repeated throughout my family's bloodline. So, you know, I study a lot about psychology and human behavior and child development, and it's statistically proven that kids that come from broken homes do worse in life. We go through more trials and tribulations, and it's just harder in general for kids that come from a broken home.
Yeah, I think so. And it makes it easier for kids that come from broken homes to be like, you know what? Well, I'm not getting certain attention here. I might as well go kick it with the homies and do X, Y, and Z.
For sure. And when you're a child, it's the subconscious thing. You're not thinking like, oh, my dad left me and my mom was physically abused, so I'm going to go join a gang. You just need attention. You need somewhere to belong, and you need love, and acceptance. So when you find that in a gang, like, that's just where you're going to go because you're not getting it where you're supposed to be getting it.
And how old were you when you joined the gang?
I was like 14 or 15 when I started kicking it. Yeah, I would say it was around that age.
So you were young.
Yeah, I was very young. And it was not even like a planned thing. It was just that in Highland Park, there's a lot of gangs and a lot of crews. And the crew that I started kicking it with started getting into the neighborhood gang. So after that started happening, everyone started getting into the gang. So then it didn't matter if you were from the gang or not. If you're still kicking it with this crew that half of them got into this gang, now you're basically just affiliated, and when people are dumping at you, they're not going to say, oh, he's not from the gang, let me just skip him. They're just boop, boop, boop everywhere, so people get caught up in the crossfires all the time just by affiliation. So that's kind of how it goes in a lot of neighborhoods with crews and gangs. I got in a lot of beef too when I was like a tagger. I got jumped so many times, and it was really rough for me and my homegirls. Like, we were in an all-girl crew, and we just caught a lot of beef in the streets too.
So you was just like getting down?
Yeah.
Fighting?
I definitely learned how to squab because I had to. Like, I had to defend myself. I also got picked on a lot in high school. So that's another one of the reasons why I started fighting, because people were always picking on me, and I had to start eventually fighting, and then they started leaving me alone. And
they were picking on you why? Just because fucking kids are cruel? Well, like, that's what they do?
Yeah. I think that the main reason what really happened was that one of my best friends made enemies with like the crazy chola girls.
Oh,
and
shit.
Then one day I stood up for my friend because I saw her getting picked on. And then I ended up fighting one of the girls. It was after school by the ice cream truck. It all started, And then I fought one of the popular girls. And after that, all the popular crazy cholas, they hated me. So I think that was like in the 9th grade. It might have been in the beginning of 10th grade, but it was rough the years after that for me. And then my homegirl, she left the school. She didn't even go there anymore. Yes.
So she left you alone with all the beef?
Yes. So I had all the beef.
Fuck.
It was crazy.
So you had to learn how to squabble it.
I did. It was the only way.
Shit, that's crazy. And you think a lot of that, like the fighting and stuff like that, led to substance abuse? Or because I know you had mentioned...
Yeah. I don't think the fighting necessarily led to the substance abuse, but I would say that the fighting definitely didn't help the substance abuse, because now that I'm an adult and now that I have like a handle on the substance abuse, I can think about like, why did I start doing that? Why did I continue to do it? And it's just a coping mechanism for people that struggle with addiction. It's a coping mechanism. People always think, oh, people are addicted to drugs because they just want to be high all the time. But it's not that people want to be high all the time. It's that they don't want to feel anything, because life is too overwhelming for them, and nobody has taught them the skills to cope with their problems or their emotional turmoil inside, So if you're stressed out, you drink a couple beers and then you're like, oh, everything's fine, So you don't really deal with the problem if you're always abusing drugs and alcohol. And like I said, my family has a lot of addiction, decades of addiction of alcohol and drug abuse, and so it was just passed down. And I am a believer in the newer science that's saying that depression and addiction and obesity and these things that are passed down from generation to generation, it's not necessarily a genetic thing. It's more like epigenetics. It's more like nature versus nurture, like that's why like you can have 5 kids from the same household and not everybody is on drugs or not everybody is depressed, because we're all different, and depending on how you specifically were treated in that household, it's going to determine your outcome and whether you abuse drugs or alcohol or not, and since I did come from a home that was full of dysfunction and abuse, my circuits of my serotonin and my dopamine and my cortisol, they didn't all form right, and that's just down to like the biochemical level of our anatomy, and so I study a lot about all that stuff, and it's really helped me understand why I got into all the trauma and trouble that I did. Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you started mentioning dopamine and all, it's like, she's been doing her homework.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's for real.
Yeah.
Like your levels are off and so why do you think you started using? Like, what triggered it?
I would say that what triggered it was just curiosity, first of all. And I would say that that also comes along with a lack of guidance, you know, and also... Unfortunately, my dad, he didn't have a dad. He didn't have a dad, first of all. I'll start by saying that. But he would talk about, like, him doing crazy things when he was young to us when we were kids. So he would talk about him kicking with the gang and him stealing cars and him doing mushrooms and him partying at when his mom wasn't there at the house. And, you know, like, he would tell us about all these crazy things. So, you know, it kind of, like, sparked a curiosity in me and my brothers. And then... when I started being around kids who were doing drugs and using alcohol, I just started doing it because I was curious. Oh, my dad told me about it. Oh, it sounds fun, you know. And then that combined with me dealing with depression and anxiety and all the problems I was facing at home, it was like the perfect recipe for a disaster.
So he would just openly say, like, just tell you guys, oh, yeah, I kicked it with the homies and we fucking stole this car and then we did this and we did that.
He would.
How old were you when he was telling you these stories?
Very little. Like, I remember being like 6, 7 when he started telling us these stories. Yeah. And like, obviously he didn't like say it for us to do it, but he was just saying like, oh, look at this street. I was there one time. Ha ha ha. And like a story would follow, you know, and like, so I feel like he just didn't know how to be the best father because he didn't have a father, you know, and my mother also didn't have a father. And so she didn't know how to be the best mother either, you know, and they did their best. And I love my parents and I've forgiven them for everything. And they forgiven me for everything too, you know, but it was definitely, I would say that's all like what started it. I would just say that the household, how was it my household started it. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you think back and they didn't know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? So they were trying to probably provide and be the best parents that they possibly could, but nobody taught them.
Yeah, nobody taught them.
So how do you teach, you know, like you're trying to be like the perfect role model, but nobody was the perfect role model for you. So I'm sure they had their challenges.
Yeah, they definitely had their challenges. I think that's one of the hardest things to do is to be a good parent, because if you don't come from a household that is ideal, you know, you're not going to know unless you research yourself. We're lucky that we're alive in this day and age where there's the internet and we can research anything. How to be a good father, how to be a good mother, how to stop your kids doing drugs, how to love your kids properly so that they don't get into abusive relationships, how to teach your friends to be better friends so that they can have a bigger circle. You know, like now you can Google everything and there's so many things to look up. And now that's even something that we think about. Back when our parents were our age, they didn't think about that. They didn't think about depression and, oh, do you feel okay? Can you tell me what's wrong? You know, it was just like, oh, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, good. Okay, let's have dinner. You know, they didn't grow up like how we are growing up now with that even a thought. Like my parents didn't study psychology and human behavior, you know, like me, I'm going to be able to provide that for my kids when I have kids, but they didn't think about stuff like that. It just wasn't part of the times.
And it wasn't so attainable.
It was
like,
not.
All you got to do right now is like, let's talk about dopamine.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then fucking Google's gonna tell you what dopamine is. You know, back then they didn't. You know, shit. I still remember growing up, we had like dial-up internet.
Yeah.
You know, like it wasn't. Yeah. You couldn't get. Now you have resources.
Yes.
Now everything's at a touch of a. I don't want to say button because it's a screen now. Like you know, everything's just there.
Yeah.
And you can get the answers to the majority of the problems. And I think everybody's more aware now.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's starting to get there. We're definitely starting to educate people more about things like that. And it's so important, especially like in the Latino community. Like, you know, we always tell like guys, oh, don't cry. Don't be a little girl. Why are you crying like a little baby? You know, like, or like, don't tell anybody your business. They can't know about our business. You know, like all these things that are like, we're just holding ourselves back instead of evolving and progressing as a culture. Our culture is so full of abuse of all kinds, and it's really sad. It's really sad, but I'm trying to change that.
Facts, right? There's bars. I grew up like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I come from, I'm a first generation. Mm-hmm. So my parents are like, no vas a llorar. Like, you know, you can't cry. Fuck is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Like, toughen up, dog. Like, you know, and I'm like fucking 6. Like, no, like, no, you know.
Oh my God,
dog, like, what the fuck you mean? Like, toughen up. Like,
yeah.
you know? And I remember once, I was at the parties. I remember this shit like fucking vividly. It's crazy. Dad. Well, like, you know, I was in the park and there was two other little boys. They were like talking shit to me, right? And my dad's like, you better get down with them. Like, vale más que te agarras a putazos, güey.
And you were 6?
I was like fucking 6. And I'm like, I was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. And then my dad was like, if you don't fucking get down, fool, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Oh, shit.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, and the kids left. I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Oh,
I don't want to fight, you know?
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, the fuck? DCFS on that guy. No.
That's so funny.
It's crazy, but it's just how it does have a lot to do with our culture, you know, and the machismo shit and like, hey, keep everything inside and don't express yourself and don't do this and don't do that. And then you're and then you're in your 20s and then you start fucking drinking and using drugs to fucking deal with the shit that was fucking, you know, that you dealt with at age 6 and like during your younger years.
And you don't even know that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
at that point, you know, in your 20s, you don't realize that you're trying to escape reality. You just think you're having fun, you know, and it's crazy. Like then, I mean,
and that's a fact.
Yeah, and then if you're lucky like us, we start researching this stuff, you know, and why am I doing this? Why am I acting like that? But a lot of people don't research that stuff, and I try to talk about this stuff as much as I can, and I'm lucky to be surrounded by a circle of friends that are also interested in these things, you know, so I get to share these thoughts and learnings with them, and they teach their teachings to me as well, you know, and it's great. And I just try to talk about this stuff as much as I can, and maybe not, I could talk about it in depth, like on this podcast, for example, because that's why I wanted to come on your podcast, because I noticed you talk about like just deeper things, more intellectual things, you know, it's not just like surface, like, you know, like how'd you start rapping, or like, you know, like, you know, like it's like real deep stuff. And like, I feel like I try to relay some of the information that I have to my fans, and sometimes I have to dumb it down a little bit because a lot of people are not ready to hear things like that, but I just kind of like scratch the surface as much as I can to spread just thoughts and ideas to people to enlighten them, you know, and change their perspective. Because I think that's important for people to do with their audience. That's just what I value. And
you're absolutely right. And I think like my goal for this podcast is I want to bring awareness, but I want to educate people, because what you went through and what I went through, they went through.
Yeah.
But they are, I want to say, maybe finding themselves and accepting that it's okay to communicate with somebody, to talk to somebody, to tell them, hey, this is what I've been through. Hey, this is the shit that I'm going through. Like, there's no person on earth that doesn't deal with bullshit. Yeah. Okay? We all do. Yeah. Every single one of us. But it's how we cope with it, how we deal with it. Growing up, I only speak for myself, I dealt with it by, hey, we're going to get fucked up. You know, we're going to do this and we're going to fucking do that. And you're thinking, it's all fun and games, but what is it that you're really trying to numb, or what is it that you're really trying to, you know, cover up? Or, you know, there's traumas. Yeah. And I think trauma, as an adult, you start seeing shit and you're like, what the fuck? Like, why do I feel like this? This shit happened when I was 6, you know, like, what the fuck, you know, like, so it's like, you know, educating ourselves and sharing our stories, but sharing it to our audience that could relate to it. Yes. Because you've been through a lot of shit. You know, we all been through our own, you know, trials and tribulations, but I think it's important to talk about it and like share it. Yeah, me too. You know, especially when it comes to substance abuse. Yeah. Because I think, a lot of us deal with our traumas with alcohol, with weed, with other, you know, substances, fucking meth. Like,
Yeah.
everybody has their own coping mechanism. But they need to understand that they're not coping with it.
Yeah.
It's like fucking breaking your leg and your bone is out and putting a fucking Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
That is not how.
Or taking a Vicodin so it doesn't hurt. But
Yes.
it's still there.
It's like, oh, the bone's still out. Like, oh, I think I'm looking at another fucking Vicodin. Like,
yeah.
You know, and I think it's important for people to hear your story and see how you cope with it. You know, you said some big things earlier, like, you know, like your dopamine levels, this level, the balances in your brain, and like stuff that you educated yourself on. And I'm sure that helps you a lot. It helps you understand yourself a little bit better, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the more I study psychology, the more I understand myself, and the more I understand other people too, you know, and the easier it is for me to navigate my own feelings, my own actions, and also to not take things so personally when other people are mistreating me, for example, you know. And I struggled with addiction since I started indulging in alcohol and drugs. Again, I remember being a young teenager when I first started drinking, and I would throw up all the time. And now I look back, I'm like, oh shit, I had a drinking problem since I was a kid. Like, I was throwing up all the time. Not everybody was throwing up, you know, but I was throwing up. And I just at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, so what? I threw up. Oops, I'm embarrassed, but oh well, you know, like, it's fine. I won't throw up tomorrow, but you know, but yeah, it's definitely been a struggle for me since I was a teenager. And I have often, I'll take breaks of sobriety and I'll just stop drinking or just be 100% sober or just whatever. I just like to restart my mind when I feel like I need to. And I feel like experiencing sobriety, 100% sobriety, it's really let me understand myself so differently, because when you are sober, like we're talking about, you don't have anywhere to run, you know, because before I would be like, oh, I'm having a bad day, I'm so stressed out, let me just smoke a little bit, you know, or like, oh, I'm so upset, I just need to calm down with the drink, let's go get a drink, you know, or when I was doing blow, like I was like, whatever, heartbroken, I didn't want to feel that, and so I just did a bunch of blow, you know, and obviously none of those things would solve the problems. So when I did get sober and when I take breaks of sobriety, it's like, oh, wow, now I really have to deal with this emotion and I have to make the changes in my life that are going to help me feel better. Otherwise, I'm going to keep coming into this problem and it's not going anywhere because I'm sober now and I'm facing it now. So it's been really good for me to take breaks sometimes. And also it's just giving me a chance to understand myself. It's giving me a chance to meet myself again, really, you know, because I was like basically always using drugs and alcohol since I was a teenager up until a few years ago. So I remember when I did get sober, initially I felt like I was like kind of experiencing life for the first time almost. I felt like I was almost like reborn, and I had to teach myself how to deal with my problems, you know, how to move the pieces around. And that's a really interesting experience if you've been dealing with your problems with drugs your whole life, you know, like, and so I feel a lot better now, and now I'm a lot better at controlling my emotions, and also, not more importantly than controlling my emotions, I'm better at moving things around in my life that need to be moved so that I can feel comfortable and at peace.
Yeah. That's dope. What I know, you know, doing drugs and using certain substances, you know, they make you feel some type of way, right? What made you say no more? Like when you went sober, so, you know, you've been doing drugs your whole teenage years. What was that point in your life that you said, no more?
When I was like addicted to cocaine and I realized it was a problem. I started using blow like every week, and this was going on for like, I want to say about 3 years. And I started missing things. I started like canceling interviews because I was hungover, and I started like having to reschedule photo shoots, and I started missing studio sessions, and it was getting like to that point. And then I started like realizing, oh shit, I'm calling off work a lot. Like, this is not good. This is really, really interfering with everything now, you know. And the thing about me is like, I've been working for myself for 8 years now. So if I don't want to get up in the morning, I don't really have to, you know, like I have made that liberty for myself that I do what I want. Obviously, I'm on a schedule though, you know, but if I don't wake up the next day, I'm the only one that gets to tell me anything. So it was easy for me to do it, you know, and at the time I didn't know how to just have one drink, you know, and I didn't know how to not do blow, and I also didn't know how to manage my emotions, most importantly, you know. So I just realized that I had a cocaine problem. It finally hit me. I was like, I want to say it was around 28 or 29 when I started like really realizing that. And I was also going through like a crazy breakup. I was in a crazy toxic abusive relationship for like so many years. So when we started like really, there was like the end, that's when I was like really using drugs because I was like just distraught, you know, and that was like my coping mechanism, which was not coping, you know, and it was around then that I developed that problem, that serious problem. So that was when I told myself like, oh damn, I think I need like help, you know. And I had always known that I struggled with drugs for like, I mean, I always been maybe for like a long time before that I knew, but at this point, that's when I said, oh shit, this is like getting out of control. Like I can't control myself, you know, and I keep saying I'm not going to do it anymore. And I do it every week, you know, and I was just really depressed and anxious and I just didn't like where my life was going. So I started going to AA meetings and NA meetings. And that's really what helped me like get a hang on like drinking and doing drugs if I want to do them every now and then, you know, whatever. But that was when it happened. It was around like 2018 or 2019, something like that.
And how hard was it?
It was really hard. It was really hard to get sober, and I definitely I think at first when I got sober, I did it for like a month. And then the next time, maybe like a couple months later, I did it for like 3 months. And then I did it for 6 months. And then I did it for 2 years. And then I did another year. I was sober all last year. The whole entire year, I was completely sober, not even weed, nothing. Well, just coffee. And,
can't leave coffee.
Yeah, I can't leave coffee.
I need my coffee.
Yeah. And then I started drinking again this year. And I smoke a little bit, but I actually now have not drank for 4 months because now I found out that I have a medical condition. I have a stomach condition. So I actually cannot even drink at all for now because I'm trying to get healthy. So I have not drank down for 4 months. And but this year when I was drinking again, it was cool. Like I'm finally just like I don't even like getting drunk anymore, honestly. Like I just like having like one drink or two. It's fun, you know, but like I don't think I got drunk since I was drinking this year. It's not really my thing anymore. It's not really now I don't really like to be around it so much either. Like since I started experimenting with sobriety for the last few years, I don't really like to be around a lot of the people that I used to be around a lot either, because a lot of those people are still actively in their addictions. And, you know, when someone is addicted to drugs and or alcohol, which is usually both, right? They have a lot of bad habits around them. You know, it's not just about them drinking and getting drunk and not remembering what they said. You know, it's also like when they're sober, they do a lot of things that are involved in that lifestyle, like just being inconsiderate of people's time, being late all the time, making it all about you. You know, like there's these characteristics that people that are dealing with addictions, that are actively in their addictions, that they have, you know. And I feel like I can't really be around people like that anymore, because now I'm not like that. Now I am showing up on time. Now I am considering everybody else's feelings. Now I am eating healthy and going to bed at an okay hour so that I can be productive the next day, you know. And I can't be hanging out with somebody when they call me at 11, what are you doing? You want to come to the bar with me? I'm like, I'm going to go to sleep right now. Like, I have an interview tomorrow. Like, I can't go. I don't even want to go either, you know? Like, so, yeah, I forgot what the question is. I'm just going off on a tangent about this shit.
I'm over here like, fuck, I'm paying attention. Like, man, this is some deep shit right here.
Right?
You know? And I think, I was just talking about that to Chris. Like, environment matters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like to put myself in situations where, you know, I don't like to put myself in situations where I know, like, well, I might drink a beer. or I might drink 2. And then 2 leads to 3. So I'm like, nah, I have to be careful of the shit that I be doing. I'm like, I'm like, man, I don't know, man. Like, it's just that I'm so systematic on everything that I do that even if I do have 2 to 3 beers, I might wake up hungover. I'm almost 40, so yeah, hangovers are different. You know what I'm saying? When you get a little bit older. Yeah. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where it's going to fuck up my day the next day.
Yeah. And then you know those certain friends too.
Yeah. Like. So, because I did that from 13 to my 30s. I grew up, we grew up drinking, doing a bunch of stupid ass shit. And it's like, yeah, nah, I think I did enough. So I'm like, yeah, maybe. Sometimes, shit, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. I'm like, because we went out on Saturday, I'm like, why did I have that 1 beer? I didn't have to. So why did I? And I start fucking evaluating myself and shit and my actions. Like, maybe I shouldn't have, So.
What was your conclusion? Why did you have the 1 drink?
I don't want to point fingers. You know what I mean? But I'm going to take responsibility.
Good. That's the right
because
answer.
I think that we deflect shit as human beings instead of owning our shit.
Yeah.
Like, sure. Motherfucker, nobody had a gun to your head saying that you had to drink this beer. So it was my fault.
Yeah.
I'm going to own it. And next time, I know the consequences.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm not reckless. I'm not drinking and driving after 10 beers. Like, I try not to drink at all. But a little relapse, Yeah. 1 beering, but then I don't want that mindset though. Saying it was just 1 beer. Because fucking next time it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah. And then you're going to be like, oh, it was just 1 beer one time again.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So let me ask you this. You say you have relapses, right? Why is that?
The same pattern started happening that I started ignoring what needed to be done in my life. I started to normalize things that I didn't want to normalize in my life, involving other people in my life. And then to deal with that stress, I would have a drink, and then I still didn't deal with these problems for months on end. And then here I go again. I'm doing blow again. And then now I need to stop drinking again, all over again, because I don't want to form that habit, and that's happened to me before. Like what you said, like I remember when I didn't do blow for like 2 years, and then I did it. And I was going through emotional turmoil, okay? And I did it, and I told myself, okay, it's not a big deal. I haven't done it in 2 years. I'm not going to be so hard on myself,
You were like me.
Yes. And then I did it again. I did it again a couple weeks later or whatever. And then I was like, oh, it's only 2 times. And then I found myself, it was over a period of a few months, but I said, oh, now I've done it 4 times. Oh, it's only 4 times. I'm like, oh, no. Wait a minute. 4 times?
It's going to be 5. And it's 6.
Yeah. 4 times in a few months is way too many for me. I'm not trying to do blow at all. Like, that's not something that's going to be allowed in my life. So that's basically what happened. It was just, again, me not having boundaries with myself and allowing things that I didn't like going on in my life. That's it. And so now I don't let myself do that, and now I have to handle the problems. And if I am stressed out, right now I'm not drinking because I can't, but if I was able to drink right now, when I am stressed out, I tell myself I cannot drink because I'm sad. It's not allowed. Like, I don't allow myself to do that anymore. And I know that when it is, I could lie to everybody else and say I'm fine, but I know when I'm sad and I'm going to drink because I'm sad. But now I don't let myself do that anymore. So now when I do drink, it's because I'm having a good time. It's because we just dropped a new album. It's because I'm in France. It's like
touring all over the world. Yeah. We're going to get into that.
So it's more like on my terms and in a healthy way. Because drinking and drugs, it should only be for celebration. Drinking and drugs is not medicine. It's not here to make you feel better. That's also what I had to really change my mindset from thinking that drugs and alcohol were medicine to heal my problems and heal my emotions, to switching over to no, it's actually just for celebration, special occasions, and when I'm excited about life. Because if you do drugs and alcohol when you feel like shit, you're just gonna feel more shitty. In the moment, you'll feel good, but the next day, you're not gonna feel good about it at all.
I think it's always the next day that takes a toll on people. Because when it comes to alcohol, it's a depressant, right?
It's a depressant for sure.
You know, like once you like wake up hungover, you're like, fuck, I want to go fucking, you know, I would either jump off this cliff right now, or I'm a fucking, or you just continue drinking.
Yeah.
And it's, it could be tough. Do you think dealing with your problems head on and being sober, how difficult is that to deal with all your traumas and everything that you got going on or that you've had done to you in the past, and to deal with those problems head on being sober? How difficult is that?
I feel like it's really difficult sometimes for me to do that, but I will say that it's a lot more difficult when I don't deal with them. So that just is the bottom line, you know? Like, yes, it's hard to be sober. Yes, it's hard to deal with my problems. Yes, it's hard to manage my anxiety and my stress around my life and with what I'm doing. But the bottom line is that if I don't deal with that stuff and I cover it up with drinking and drugs, it's just going to make everything worse. And now I've learned that lesson for sure. So I'm not trying to drag myself through the mud again with that. Yeah.
Because now you educated yourself on certain things, and now you know how to cope. But how difficult is it for you, because you're in in the music industry?
Yeah.
So when you're in concerts, and you know, I've seen that you were in Europe and stuff like that, there's alcohol, I'm sure there's other things. Like, how do you manage to be like, nah, bro, I'm good?
It's just willpower, you know. Now I have trained myself to go through this long process. Like, this is the thing. I'll start by saying this. I always tell people that when I worked at the Home Depot, if I went to work drunk, I would have been fired, you know? But now when I go to work, people greet me with alcohol. Oh, can I get you a shot? Oh, you want a blunt? Oh, you want some cocaine? You want Molly? Whatever you want. Oh, you can get it. Like, they want to do it with you. It's encouraged now when I go to work, you know? And that's crazy. That's really difficult, especially for somebody like me who has dealt with addictions, you know? And so I just have to run through the whole story in my head. I'll tell you exactly what I tell myself. And let's say I have had a few drinks, because when I perform, I do like to have a couple shots before I go on stage. It's fun. It lets me let loose, because it's very nerve-wracking to go in front of hundreds or thousands of people and perform, you know. And it's always been nerve-wracking for me. Some people say, oh, I don't get nervous. Like, I've always gotten nervous. I still get nervous to this day. I've been doing this for 10 years, you know. But so I do like to have a couple shots before I go on stage if I'm drinking at the time. And let's say I have a couple shots afterwards, after my performance, to celebrate or whatever, you know? And then let's say somebody brings out the cocaine, you know? And then I'm like, oh, look, the coke looks fun. And everyone's all like, you know, everyone's all doing their thing. And then I'm just looking there like, you want some? I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. And I just have to tell myself, like, what's going to happen if you do it? You're gonna take a bump. And then it's going to turn to another bump. And then it's going to turn to a line. 4. Yes. And then you're going to be doing coke for the next few hours. And then then it's going to be gone. And then it's going to be 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. And the sun's coming out. You can see through the windows. And everyone's just staring at each other because there's no more coke. Then I'm going to go home. And then I'm going to be laying in bed for 4 hours, not able to sleep. And then I'm finally going to sleep for like 2 hours. And then the whole next day is going to be wasted because I have no energy. Because I depleted my dopamine and serotonin circuits. And now I can't concentrate. And I feel like shit. And I can't eat. And I can't sleep. And then I tell myself, I'm good on the coke, but you guys enjoy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you process all that.
I have to.
That's
and it's
good.
like in a matter of a few seconds, but I just remember, boop, 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 boop. No, I know this already. I'm good.
When you do blow, what does that high do to you? What is so addictive of that high?
For me, I really like cocaine because it makes my brain stop. Like, I see how cocaine affects people, you know, and for most people, they're like, yeah, you know, they're like talking and they have all these crazy ideas and they're like bouncing around the party, and that's not me. Like, if I do coke, I'm just like this, like, And like that's why I like it, because my mind, it races so fast and I'm always like go 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 go, but when I do coke, it just makes everything stop. Like I don't worry about tomorrow, I don't worry about what happened earlier. I'm just like right here right now, and I just listen to everybody talking. I'm just tripping out on everybody.
Just taking mental notes.
Yeah.
I should implement that.
So that's what I liked about it so much, you know, but fuck all that. You know, I don't need to do that. I don't need it. Now I'm trying to manage my stress. Now I'm working out religiously, you know, and I'm eating better and I'm trying to sleep more. And I'm surrounding myself with good people that are good to me, you know, and I'm just making sure that I'm making decisions that are going to be good for my well-being and my mental health. So I don't need to do that. That doesn't sound appetizing. That sounds like disgusting, you know?
And you didn't find something to substitute that feeling? Like in terms of, you know, 'cause obviously blow is a drug, but something that's not a drug that could give you that feeling?
Yeah, for sure my substitute is working out. Because, you know, it does a lot of the same things to your brain. Cocaine and working out, they're not exactly the same, but it does a lot of the same things, you know, to your brain. A bunch of similar circuits are going off in your brain. And also, I have been working out more than ever, like the past, let's say, a couple years of my life. And when I don't work out, let's say for like a week, and I start like having like more negative thoughts and like being just meaner to myself in my head, and then I realize like, oh, I haven't worked out in a few days. I think that's what's going on, you know. And then I'll work out, and then I'll work out again, and then I'm feeling better again. So that's been like my go-to. And there's so many other plus sides, like I look better for my job, you know, and then when you look better, you feel better. I also have better stamina, and I'm if and God forbid anything happened to me, but if I had to fight in the world, I'm in really good shape to defend myself, you know, or if I had to run out of a burning building or whatever, you know, like I'm in good shape physically and mentally. So I definitely work out a lot, and that's become like my substitute for doing drugs.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Have you tried boxing?
Only in the streets.
Like on over there on somewhere in Highland.
Yeah. I wouldn't do boxing just because I'm a woman, and I wouldn't want to mess up my face, especially with my job. Like I need this face.
Okay, so I don't
have any surgeries or fillers or Botox, none of that. So I need to take care of my face.
All natural.
Yeah. I can't.
So I'm not talking about like sparring. Like
okay,
I started boxing, and the focus that you have, like when you're training, that shit is fucking it's dope.
I bet.
Try it.
I will.
Like I'm not talking about putting headgear and sparring. We don't want to mess up the moneymaker. You know what I mean? We don't want that.
The bag?
But with the bag, with the mitts, like I have a coach. That shit right there, it's like different level focus.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to do cardio like that, you know? That shit right there, let me tell you, that shit is dope.
I bet it's like let it out, huh?
Man, you're like, well, remember when I was 6? Yeah, man, boom, 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 that shit. Nah, just
remember
kidding.
my dad tried to make me fight those boys
Yeah,
in the park?
Acuérdate, pa. Oh, no, la verga. Boom, boom, boom. Nah, just kidding. But I'm just, it's such a different focus, and I'm enjoying it so much.
That's good.
You should try it.
I will.
You know, it's like a stress reliever. It's great cardio. Shit didn't fit me like 2 weeks ago.
That's good.
You know what I mean, homie?
That's good.
And I go fuck somebody up. Nah, just kidding. No, I'm just saying. So yeah, that's great. You know, I think the gym will help with a lot of with your mental health.
Yeah, and I like to do a lot of high intensity workouts. Like
I
don't even go to the gym. It's kind of weird for me to go like a lot of public places because a lot of people recognize me, you know, and then I have to worry about people following me home and shit like that, you know. So
you get weird shit like that?
Oh yeah, I have a restraining order on a crazy fan right now. A crazy fan, not an ex. Everyone's always like, is he your ex? No, I don't date psychopaths, okay? Not anymore.
That's all in the past. 2019. Not just kidding.
Yeah, left it back there. But yeah, I've had a lot of crazy experiences. My stalker actually came to my house. This was like 2 years ago, I think. I was living in a penthouse in downtown, and before and after that, I never show where I live because of crazy fans. And that year, I was living in the penthouse, and it was in a super secure building. And so that was the only reason why I showed where I lived. And I would like show my view. And there was like a mural right there, a Clippers mural. And I guess my stalker saw it on my Instagram, obviously. And he went to my house.
Okay, hold up. Back up. So this fool took the time to Google the mural.
Yes.
And pinpoint a location.
Yes.
Then that's effort, homie.
And he drove like
God
8
damn.
hours because he lives in the Bay.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he got his ass beat. When he went there.
Give him a 2-piece and a biscuit.
If we gave him a lot more than that. We gave him a lot
2-piece
more
and
than
a
that.
bucket.
Yeah. And then after that, I didn't hear from him from a few months. And then he came back. Not to my house, but he started like harassing me online again. And so then that's when I got a restraining order against him. So now if he wants to come to me again, there's a piece of paper that has a record. And if anything happens to him, nothing can happen to me. Because now it's on paper that he's crazy. This is a crazy person, obviously. He belongs in a fucking mental institution.
Well, that's why I think you're guarded, right? Like
Yeah.
Now you don't want to go certain places.
Yeah.
You have to probably have certain people with you. You know?
I always have security with me. When I go to my shows, it's part of my contract that they have to give me security, a personal security just for me. And in a lot of places, it's going to be armed. And then if that's not going to be part of the contract, I bring my goons with me. Like, I never go anywhere, but publicly, alone.
Shit, let me know, homegirl. I'm fucking... I got these.
You got the boxing down, all right.
If you ever need, you know. And I got one of my closest friends. That fool's like 6'4".
Okay,
So
I'm going to take you up
like,
on that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, fool, we have to fuck these fools. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, people be wilding. But anyways, point of that being that I don't really like going to the gym because I don't really like running into a lot of people. But I work out at my house mostly, and so I just go on YouTube and I just look up like high intensity workouts, and it's really cool because it's like they work your whole body. I'm like doing burpees and jumping jacks and all like planks and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like really moving around.
Burpees are underrated, homie.
They're so underrated.
That shit right there. If you do fucking, bro, it's just crazy.
Most people cannot even do 5.
Yeah, that shit is
Like,
tough.
for real,
and
like,
especially
you
the
know?
ones where you do like your knees. When you go, fuck, that shit is like intense.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I've been working out for like 15 years, right? But I've always lifted weights.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize how fucking out of shape I was until I started boxing.
I bet. It's
I
like
thought I was gonna
guys.
die, like for real, like.
Uh-huh.
The coach was like, "Hey man, just breathe," and I'm like, "I can't, fool. Like I'm trying, but I couldn't.
Oh my God.
I couldn't, and I was like gasping, like well, I have asthma too, right?
Okay.
But my thing is that I do not want to use my inhaler. Of course, my wife's like, "Fool, if you can use the inhaler, use it. Stop,
I bet, yeah.
You fuck around and fall,
Yeah.
So unless I feel like it's like an emergency, then I'll use it. But yeah, I didn't realize how out of shape I was until that.
Yeah,
So,
because guys always just use weights at the gym.
Yeah.
If they try to run on the treadmill for 30 minutes, forget it.
And then I think that like my coach, he's like, yeah, I see you lifting and everything, and he's probably like, fool, but that don't mean shit, like if you get in a real squabble, a real fight now at 40, like, yeah, so now, I got to take it a little bit more serious.
Yeah. You know what? You said you had asthma. So there's actually new findings. I don't know if you know about this, but so there's new findings being how do you say that? Expressed? No. There's new findings in the world of biochemistry and psychology and child development that say now that they believe that asthma is created by stressful households.
Yes.
Like a lot of kids that have asthma, they come from stressful households, and like what's happening is when you're a child, you're developing your circuits, and when you're in a healthy household, your circuits are developing correctly, right? But your cortisol is not developing correctly if you're in a high stress environment, because your cortisol is just it's a hormone that goes off that helps you get into fight or flight mode if you need to run away from a bear or something like that, So, but when you're being hit by your parents, for example, or when your parents are always screaming at you and yelling at you and telling you how you're not doing anything right in life, you're going to be releasing the cortisol all the time. So your circuits are not forming right. It's mostly the cortisol coming out. So when you have asthma, especially as a child, you need to take a hit of the inhaler, right? But actually the hit of the inhaler, what's in it is actually cortisol. It's actually a shot of cortisol, and you can't breathe. You get asthma attacks when you're stressed out, right? Or when you're exercising a lot, whatever. But when you're stressed out, you're releasing the cortisol, and your brain is literally depleted of being able to release the cortisol. So you have to take a shot of the inhaler of the cortisol to go inside of you. So that's like the new findings in the world of.
Do you think it has a lot to do with anxiety too?
Yeah,
It's
all
really not a fucking asthma attack.
Yeah.
You're having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Because you're telling yourself that you can't breathe.
And it's all connected.
Yeah. And I think I started to do, like, when I feel like I can't breathe, I practice my breathing. And then, it went away.
Yeah. And that's really important to be able to
trippy,
do that.
Right?
Yeah. And it's the same thing like with depression and anxiety. Even drug addiction is linked to that same exact thing. Like people who are prone to having drug addiction problems, they always come from fucked up households, you know. And why? Because when they were young, their receptors are not forming correctly because they're in a household full of stress. So when they do try cocaine and it shoots off the serotonin the right way, or I mean excessively, you're finally like feeling that you should have felt as a child, that feeling of peace, of like, you know, and then that's why it feels so good. And that's why some people become addicted to cocaine and some people don't. Some people it's just like, oh, you know, whatever, it's a cool little feeling for a second, but then other people who can't stop, it's more than likely that their receptors were not formed correctly. And that's the same thing like with like the imbalance in your brain chemistry. Also that is connected to childhood too. Like now they used to say, oh, it's just hereditary, it's genetics, but now they're saying it's actually not. It can be shaped, and it is shaped as a child. Yeah.
Where'd you learn all this?
I study a lot online, and one of my friends is
girl,
studying
sounded like a PhD and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like, I'm gonna have to fucking rewind. I'm gonna have to watch this so I can take notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now that you brought up depression, you struggled with depression.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
I struggled with depression since I was really little. Like, I remember being like 7 years old and I wouldn't wear my seatbelt because I would hope we'll crash and I'll die.
No way.
I swear.
As a 7-year-old?
As a 7-year-old. I remember being that little and having those thoughts.
Do you think back on like where you were 7 though.
That's sad, huh?
Why would you have those thoughts?
At that moment, it was usually because my mom was like beating me.
Okay.
And then we were in the car going somewhere, and I couldn't cry about it because she'll tell me, "Don't cry or I'll make you cry." But it's like, wait a minute, how am I not supposed to cry? You just beat me, and now I'm supposed to hold back my tears. It's just a really confusing thing for a child, you know. It's a confusing thing for an adult. Imagine if somebody you love came up to you and hit you, and you're like, "What the hell?" Like, and you're all stunned. And they're like, "Why are you acting like that? What's the big deal? Get over it." You know, it's very confusing. So when kids have to go through things like that, they don't know how to handle it. You literally don't know how to handle it. And that's a lot. Another thing is that a lot of people, they say, "Oh, I can't remember my childhood. I don't remember anything from my childhood." A lot of people say that, right? And then you meet some people who are like, "I remember when I was 2. Like, how do you remember that? A lot of the times when you can't remember your childhood, it's because your brain has actually blocked it out. You have a lot of like blackouts in your life as a child if you're constantly in a high stress environment, because that's all your brain knows how to do. Your brain's just gonna shut down so that it can go through the moment. It's like that. The same thing happens. Like, let's say if you do get attacked by a bear, after a certain amount of pain, your body will just like, you won't remember it. You'll black out, even though you're still alive and breathing. And the reason is because your body, it shuts itself down when it needs to, when you cannot deal with reality, literally. So a lot of times that's why you can't remember a lot of your childhood if you did come from a high stress environment.
Wow, that's kind of deep.
That's very deep.
At 7 years old. So it progressed. Do you think, you started experiencing depression at 7? Then it started getting worse at 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, like the first time I ever ran away, I was in the 3rd grade. I was 8 years old the first time I ran away. Imagine a little 8-year-old girl running away after school. I ran away.
Where? Like where? Where did you?
I ran away with 2 of my friends, 2 of my best friends who were also in super high stress, physically abusive households. And we all were like, oh, we're going to run away. We're going to go to the runaway shelter. My friend knew about like this runaway shelter supposedly. And so we all packed like a little bit of clothes in our backpack. And after school, we just left, the 3 of us. And we didn't go to daycare because obviously we were in daycare because obviously our parents were working and couldn't take care of us, you know. And so then they found us a few hours later. They did find us. And then I still remember that I was in so much trouble. And I still remember that nobody asked me, Jordan, are you okay? Why did you run away? What's going on in your life that's so crazy that makes you run away? Nobody asked me that. Like if my 8-year-old nephew or niece ran away, I would say, are you okay? What the hell is my brother doing to you? You know?
Okay.
That's crazy.
So when they, okay.
That was a sad childhood.
No,
it was very sad.
Mine was pretty sad too, but
yeah.
I just think like it's just so interesting to me, you know, because I think we have similar backgrounds. And I'm like,
so many people are going through this.
Nobody said, sweetheart, why are you running away? Like nobody bothered to see what triggered.
Nobody asked me that. Nobody asked me that, and I was always in the counselor's office though when I was a kid, because obviously I was always in trouble because I was having a crazy household life, you know, and I was going to a counselor, and then I had a fucking, I don't know if I would consider it sexual abuse, but I guess it is sexual abuse. But the fucking counselor that I was seeing at my school, she allowed me and the 3 other kids, when I was like around that same age, like 8, I think, or 9, she allowed us to make out in her room. And she would tell us to use secret codes so that if anybody walked by, I still remember the code word, it was dance with the tango. She would say, you guys could dance to the tango now, and we would like kiss, and she would like turn off the lights, and I don't know, she was probably watching us or something, you know. Obviously she was like a pedophile. And so so we would say dance to tangos, and like whatever that happened, and I was so little, I didn't think, I thought it was cool. I was like making out with my crush in the counselor's office, you know, because I was so little. But then a few years later, I got pulled into the principal's office, and then they said, hey, this guy, he was in the room with the other girl with me. They said, he said that counselor used to let you guys make out in the room, and she would make secret code words and this and that. And I was like, oh. I was like, yeah, we already got caught. I was like, yeah, that did happen. They're like, all right, because they're like investigating the counselor right now, and she's like under investigation. A woman. It was a woman, yeah. So that's crazy. Like they're sending bad kids to the counselor, and then the counselor is like sexually abusing or whatever. I don't know if that's considered sexual abuse, but it sounds like some pedophile shit.
That's some pedophile shit.
Yeah, right?
Hey, we're going to make code words, and you're going to make out.
That's crazy.
I'm going to do who knows fucking what.
I know. She was probably banging herself with the lights off. God. Ew, that's crazy, huh?
That's why.
Yeah, so
I
there's been a
have
lot of
talks
weird
with
things.
my daughter.
That's good.
Okay. I have talks with my daughter, and I tell her, it's just, fuck. That shouldn't be happening.
It should not be happening. How old is your daughter?
She's 8.
Oh my gosh, she's that age that I was.
But fucking.
That's good you're
man,
talking
you
to me.
motherfucker, you scream, and I talk to my, I talk to her so much.
You have to.
You know, and it's like, okay, you need to come tell daddy.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're not going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You can always tell me, you know, sweetie, if somebody does this, I fucking go through like, you know, like
Step by
if
step.
this. Okay, what happens if this happens? So what do you do? Well, I do this. Okay, baby, you need to do this. And
Yeah.
this is how you handle this. And, you know, and
That's good.
sometimes, you know, I come from a super traditional Mexican family, and they probably think I exaggerate. But I'm like, I'm not exaggerating, motherfucker. I'm not.
Yeah.
There's some sick ass people out there.
There's some sick people out there.
You know, and then
Let them think what they want. You're protecting your daughter. Like,
fucking shit.
yeah.
Shit. Did they not know I'm in boxing, homie? So, what inspired No Chaser?
The album or the song?
Both. I
Both.
love that song. I was bumping it.
Thank
yesterday.
you.
Oh, that's my shit.
Hey,
Talk
thank
about
you.
my motherfucking problems. And I'm like, yes, we all have problems. And that's a
Yes.
real ass song.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna let you tell it because you know.
So actually, that song is, I wrote it when I relapsed. It was one of the times when I relapsed, when I started doing blow again. Like I say in the song, like, oh, I'm back to sniffing lines to ease the pain. What can I say? I guess some things never change. Miss Reverie. And yeah, I started doing blow again, and I was just going through some personal turmoil, really, and I just was not dealing with my problems. I was letting them pile up, you know, and I was letting things get carried away. And so I just wanted to write a song because my music has always been very therapeutic for me. It's always been an outlet. So I made time to go do that, and I wrote the song at the studio, and then I recorded it right away. So that's why you could really like hear the passion in the rap when I'm rapping it. Like I wrote it that moment, I recorded it at the next. Like, and I don't really do that a lot now. I have such a busy schedule that I have to plan everything, like even studio sessions. Like, because when I first started making music, it was really cool because we were working in my grandma's basement, me and my brother Loudon. And I was going through something, and I would say, hey, can you leave the basement because I want to write a song? And then I would write the song. And then in an hour, I would call him, oh, come downstairs and record me. And then he'll come downstairs and record me. And so it's cool, like making art in the moment. It was all very passionate, you know? But now my schedule's so busy that I always have to schedule studio sessions. Like, there's no way that I can say, oh, I want to go make a song today. Let's go do it. It's almost impossible with my schedule now, which kind of sucks, but it's also great because my career is going great, you know? But anyway, so the point being that song was really in the moment. And actually, that song wasn't even supposed to be on the album. And the album actually had another name. And after I made that song was made so after all of the other songs. Like, the album was actually done in 2019. And then in 2021, we added 3 more songs, and No Chaser was the last song. And after I made that song, I said, we're not calling the album the other name. It's now going to be called No Chaser. It's going to be called No Chaser, because the song was just so good. It just really was
That's
so good to me.
Banger, right there.
It's such a good song. So then we changed it to No Chaser. It was called No Chaser.
I could hear that. That's a sincere, like, that shit is, you said some powerful shit in there.
Thank you.
That I think is super relatable.
That's why people like it.
And I think, music is like an outlet, you know, and that's a banger.
Thank you.
I really do like that song.
Thank you.
And I was like, I wonder what, and then I start thinking, right? Like, I wonder what inspired this, or how did this song come about? Did she write it? Did she just go in there and just say it? Like, you know, I think about shit like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, because that's deep. Because nobody talks about their fucking problems.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you talk about your problems and this and that, and I'm like, oh shit, this is some deep stuff right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs I've ever made, for sure.
I heard another song where you talk about women empowerment. And that,
women empowerment.
like, I don't know if it was an interview or you mentioned something about women empowering women, but it's...
Oh, the last song with Jenny 69?
I forgot. I forgot that you covered something on that topic. Like, what do you think about, like, are women really empowering women, or like, what's your thought on that?
I think it's a great time to be a woman, especially an artist, a rapper. You know, I'm blessed to be alive in this day and era where women are getting a lot more respect in all areas of life, you know. And also, when I started rapping 10 years ago, there was so few female MCs, and we got treated not the way we're treated now. You know, now it's like a lot better. But I think it's really nice to see women coming together and empowering each other and uplifting each other. And not everybody's able to do that because some people just don't know how to play with others, you know, and they were probably like that on the playground as kids, you know, and that's fine. But luckily for me, I know how to share, I know how to collaborate, I know how to appreciate others. I try to practice appreciation instead of envy. You know, when I see somebody doing better than me, I get inspired by it. I say, oh, if they could do it, maybe I could do it, you know, instead of being like, oh, she don't deserve that, fuck her, you know. Like, I try to always, like, appreciate people and just be inspired by them. But I'm definitely all about women empowerment, and beyond just saying it, like, my actions have shown that over the last 10 years of my career. I've shown so much love and given so many opportunities to other female rappers, and I continue to do so, and I'm gonna continue to do that because I think it's important for the culture.
That's dope. So how did you start working? Because you did a song with Jenny 6ix9ine and what's the other?
Crystal Poppin.
Yes, now.
Yeah, it's called Back Into It.
And how did you guys collab on that? Like,
so we have all been following each other for a few years. I've been a fan of them for a few years now. I think they're badass. And then Jenny 6ix9ine hit up me and KP, and she said, "Oh, I want to make a song with you guys." And then I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it!" Like, I'm a fan for sure. So we just were sifting through beats together, and then immediately when we heard that beat for Back Into It, immediately I was like, "Oh, that's the one." And apparently they felt the same way too. They wrote back on the text like, "Oh, it's this one, it's this one." And then so we're like, "Okay, let's do it." As an Ice Cube sample, and we shot a music video, and it's going up. Everyone's talking about it right now, so it's going really good for the three of us. Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, I heard it. And I seen the video where you were on a horse.
Oh, that's my Penthouse Keys. That's from No Chaser, the album.
Yeah.
I dropped that one after. I actually directed that video.
I seen a couple of interviews too yesterday.
Cool.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, all right. That's what's up. And she's gonna be on True Hustle.
Hell yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I try to do interviews. I've been trying to do a lot more over the past couple years because I feel like for me, like, people love my music obviously, but they also really like to hear my intellectual side. They like to hear my findings about life. So I've been trying to do more podcasts and stuff so I can let people in on that side of me more because they like it. Yeah.
So what advice would you give for somebody, not just somebody that wants to be an artist, but just somebody that's going through real life issues such as depression, anxiety, substance abuse? What advice would you give them?
I would say if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, drug abuse, any addiction at all, I would say to get help. You know, like, I would say if you're already in your 20s, in your mid-20s, and you're still struggling with these same issues that you've been struggling with for 10 years, it's time to get help. Like, you can't do things by yourself sometimes, and it's cool to go to AA meetings or NA meetings or even Overeating Anonymous, you know, or get a personal trainer or a life coach, go to therapy. You know, it's good to have people around you that you can talk to your problems about, like your friends and your family or your loved ones. But the thing is that they're looking at you through a different lens. Their opinion of you is biased because they love you and they care about you. If you go to someone outside of your circle who's a professional, they're gonna like give it to you how it is. You know, they're not gonna sugarcoat. They're not gonna worry about your feelings. They're gonna help you get to your destination. And I would just say that you have to get help. But just keep in mind that if you don't get help, your life is never going to change. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to bring you the key to the better life that you want on a silver platter. There's never going to be the right moment. You're never going to have enough money to do it. You're never going to be skinny enough to do it. You're never going to have the right moment to do it. You can't wait. You can't wait. Like, you have to just do it. You have to just do it now. Get help now. Whatever that is for you. You know, because we're all going through different things. But getting help is the answer. It's really the only answer. You can't help yourself sometimes. If you've been struggling with an addiction of any kind for over 10 years, like, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You're just not. So you have to get help.
And it has to be professional help. Like, not your homie.
Yeah.
Or your tia or your tío. Like, somebody that's like a professional that could help you get through these hurdles and through these barriers. Like, somebody that could really help, you know? Yeah. And I think... In our culture, in the Latino culture, first of all, it's frowned upon. You know, like, no, you're gonna go talk to a therapist? That's local. Oh, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's like, if you can't deal with the issues, there's obviously something there. So go talk to a professional, no matter what so and so says. And even, you know, sometimes our own parents are like, nah, tú nomás ponte las pilas and stop being a fucking this and that. Yeah. Dude, it is okay to not feel okay. Yeah. It is okay to go fucking ask somebody, I need help. Yeah. I need to fix me. Can you help me?
Yeah, there's a lot of strength in that. And it's funny that a lot of people are so reluctant to get help for their mental health issues because any addiction is a mental health issue, okay? It starts with the mental health. And people are so reluctant to go get help for their addictions, but it's so crazy because, like, if you cut off your finger on accident right now, you'll rush to the hospital to put on your finger. You know, you're not going to just be like, oh, let me try to do it myself. Oh, it's fine. And put a Band-Aid. Oh, it's still bleeding. Oh, it's fine. You know, you're going to go to the hospital and get help. So it's like, if you've been dealing with this problem for years on end and it's destroying your life and you don't feel good about yourself, why do we let it get so carried away? You know, how come we're always like our mental health is always last? And it's not good. It's because they don't teach us to value that in our society. Now they're finally teaching kids about mental health in school, which is great. Does your daughter tell you that? They teach you a little bit about it, right? Yeah. I think it's amazing. I'm so happy to hear about all the young kids. They're finally teaching them a little bit. I'm like, too bad they forgot about us, but it's all good, you know.
But it's all good.
But
we all right.
Yeah, we're all right. So I'm glad that it's becoming more accepted and more.
And not just in school. I think it's important to talk to your kids at home.
Yeah,
that's more important. Everything starts at home.
Mm-hmm.
The morals, the values, how you talk to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is all learned behavior. Kids are going to do what the parents do.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to try to be like the parents.
Yeah.
So if you're talking shit to each other all fucking day, then that's what you're feeding the kids.
Yeah.
You know,
and they're gonna enter abusive relationships.
Yeah,
they're either gonna be the abuser or the abusee.
Yeah, and it's like, no, dog, that's not normal, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's important, you know, to have these talks at home, and I'm glad that they're teaching them in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think the home front, that's where the majority of the shit comes from.
Yeah,
because once you look back at your upbringing, like the majority of your issues and your traumas and they're deep rooted.
Yeah.
And they started at home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, and it's like, I think it's important so we don't repeat that cycle.
Yeah.
Because we don't want our kids to go through what we went through. That's just kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, once you think about it, like, damn, bro. Like, why do we have to go through that shit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, no kid should have to go through stuff like that. So what else you got going right now? Like, you got music, you got your concert. I see you were in Europe.
Yeah. I just got back from Europe, it's been like 3 weeks now, maybe. And I'm going to go back again next month. So I'm going back and I'm going to do 5 dates. I'm going to be in Switzerland and Germany. And then I have a show coming up in LA the day before Thanksgiving. And then I have a show in Fresno in the end of this month. And I'm actually probably going to go on a tour as well in November as well, at the end of November, and How the Grouch Stole Christmas tour. So I'm touring a lot right now.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So where's the show right here in LA?
Oh my God, I forgot what the venue's called.
But it's like around here?
But it's in LA, yeah.
Okay.
And I actually need to post a flyer today too. Yeah.
That would be dope.
But it's in LA. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you should come.
I haven't. When was the last concert I went to? I don't know, like a fucking Mike Jones or like a... Oh, no, I went to... Because Valentino gave me the tickets to go see Ja Rule. But aside from that, I haven't been to one since I was like in my 20s.
Yeah. Oh, my God. You have to come. It's also going to be Casey Veggies, Evidence, I think Talib Kweli, or like the Far Side.
I'll have to roll up.
Yeah, let me know. I can put you and your wife on the guest list.
Fuck yeah, that
For
shit
sure.
would be dope. Deal, you heard it here. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for
I know
having
you're
me.
super busy because we booked you like 2 months ago.
Was it 2 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, I had to make sure that we made it happen, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
and
same.
I know that our guests, they're gonna get a lot from this.
Cool. I hope
because
so.
I want them to know that it's okay not to be okay or not to feel okay, but there's always ways to deal with shit, and there's ways to cope with things, and it's okay to fucking talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Dog, do not keep this shit inside, and it's okay. We all go through it. I don't give a shit what anybody says, whether it's social media or everybody goes through shit.
Yeah.
We just have to find ways to cope and deal with it in the healthiest way.
In the healthy ways, yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I'm going to close it with that.
Cool.
So,
Thank
you so much, Reverie.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. Bam.